ओम त्यागेश्वरम रामकृष्णम शारदां मातृरूपिणीं विवेकानंदमाचार्यं नत्वा वक्ष्यामि शुद्धे योगेन चित्तस्य पदेन वाचा मलं शरीरस्य च भैषजेन योपाकरोत्तं प्रवरं मुनीनां पतञ्जलिं प्राञ्जलिरानतोऽस्मि. We have started discussion on this second chapter of Yoga Sutras called Sadhana Pada. The chapter that deals with means, so to say, for such aspirants whose mind is not concentrated, whose mind is, so to say, distracted. What are the means that we should adopt so that we become fit to practice yoga? And that is what this chapter deals with. The first sutra we saw, Patanjali introduced what he calls Kriya Yoga. Certain actions, a set of action that leads to yoga, that leads to concentration, that will be an aid to concentration. That's why it is called Kriya Yoga. And it consisted of three components: tapas, swadhyaya and Ishvara pranidhana. Tapas means austerity, you could call it, or we discussed, it is restraining ourselves, restraining our mental, physical, verbal activities, which follow, so to say, various drives, which are prompted by various drives, and which we know are counterproductive to our spiritual growth. To restrain ourselves from engaging in such activities that are counterproductive, harmful to our spiritual life, we restrain ourselves. That is tapas. Tapas has many meanings, but in this context it can be explained as this: that is, restraining ourselves from engaging in certain activities, mental, physical or verbal, which we know are harmful for our spiritual life, for yoga. That is tapas, and it is mandatory. It is absolutely necessary. This involves hardships and pain, no doubt, but it is mandatory. Swadhyaya is chanting of mantras or stotras, as also moksha shastra adhyanam, studying the scriptures related to moksha or spiritual literature. The purpose of swadhyaya is to strengthen or to arrive at and then to strengthen the faith or a philosophy that we adopt for our own spiritual growth. See, as sadhakas, we should have faith, because faith is the basis of everything. Faith in a particular philosophy. So through swadhyaya we discover every person will have, by maybe our past births or whatever you call it, past samskaras, whatever, affiliation towards a particular philosophy. So we need to identify what is our philosophy of life and then strengthen it through swadhyaya. So swadhyaya is meant to, so to say, discover what is my philosophy of life and then to strengthen it. Also, so swadhyaya we come to know at times that somewhere we are stuck or some mistake we are doing in our life, in our spiritual life. We read, we come across such experiences or such explanations given by the scriptures, and so that is the purpose of swadhyaya. So obviously it has to pertain to a spiritual field, the reading and studying. And the third was Ishvara pranidhana, that is dedication of all actions to God or offering of all results to God. This Ishvara pranidhana word came earlier also, but there the meaning was some kind of prayerful meditation in the first chapter. Now here it is the Karma Yoga of Gita, dedicating all actions unto God or offering the results of actions unto God. Now this is very important because most of the time or energies during a day in our life is spent in working, in action. So we need a way to translate these actions in a way that they are helpful for our yogic practices, for our spiritual life. Otherwise, action has a tendency to actually drag us down in our spiritual life. It generates samskaras and it drags us, it has a general tendency to drag us. So unless we are careful, these actions will drag us away from spiritual life. But we cannot give up actions because we don't have the competence to give up all actions and sit and meditate. We don't have. We have to work. We have to discharge our duties. We have to earn our livelihood. Whatever reason, genuine reason maybe. There are many genuine reasons for which we have to work. But we have to work in a way wherein the action, instead of becoming a binding force, it becomes a releasing force. It releases us from this cycle of birth and rebirth. It releases us from this samsara chakra. So that is the kaushala, that is the dexterity, that is the skill in action, as Gita calls it. So perform actions in a spirit of dedication unto God. So God is the niyanta, the sustainer of this universe. The whole world belongs to God. So all our actions also belong to God. So we perform all actions with that spirit. And when we perform these, all the ulterior motives that we have while performing an action are automatically eliminated. When we say this is God's work, God's world and God's work, then whatever ulterior motives we have that get associated with action, they are automatically eliminated. We also have to make effort. We have to exercise discrimination and all that. But we should purify our actions, purify the motives behind our actions. That is, the Ishvara Pranidhana or Karma Yoga is nothing but purifying the motives with which we perform action. Knowingly, unknowingly, our action gets tinged with many self-centered ulterior motives, so to say. These get attached to action. To free all these and to perform an action in a pure spirit of dedication unto God, that is this Ishvara Pranidhana. And all these three, they form what is called Kriya Yoga. And why we should undertake this, that was what told in the next sutra, Samadhi Bhavanartha Klesha Tanu Karanarthascha. This practice of Kriya Yoga, it will attenuate the kleshas. What kleshas are, next sutra will tell. Attenuation is, so to say, weakening of the kleshas and facilitate concentration. Now in this sutra and the next and all that, this Patanjali and the Bhashyakara, they lay out, so to say, this plan of this journey also, say, plan of spiritual life, you can say. So this concentration is not possible unless kleshas, the drives, are attenuated. At this point we can say kleshas are the drives within our mind which force us outside. So unless these are attenuated, these are weakened, concentration is not possible. Now why do we want concentration? The reason is that according to this philosophy of yoga, this concentration or samadhi, it has stages. We saw in our earlier lectures. Say stages, two main, samprajnata and asamprajnata, or savija and nirbija. Concentration with some adhara, some object, concentration on some object, and concentration without any object. And that object is either subtle or gross, mixed with other entities like Shabdartha Jnana and all that. But the purest form of concentration, the deepest form of concentration, leads to what is called prasankhana or knowledge. According to these yogis and yoga philosophy, it is only this knowledge which is the result of the highest form of concentration that can burn the kleshas, the seeds of kleshas, so to say. And unless the seeds of kleshas are not burnt, liberation is not possible. That is their theory, that is their philosophy. Liberation is possible only when, through knowledge, the seeds of these kleshas are burnt. Dagdha bija. That is the point. Unless knowledge comes, this burning of the seeds of kleshas does not happen. And hence, knowledge is necessary. To attain knowledge, samadhi is necessary. To attain samadhi, kleshas have to be attenuated. Unless kleshas are attenuated, we cannot develop concentration. Unless we develop concentration, we cannot have knowledge. Unless we have knowledge, kleshas, the seeds of kleshas cannot be burnt. And unless these are burnt, liberation is not possible. So that is, so to say, the plan of action, so to say. So undertake Kriya Yoga, attenuate the kleshas, and simultaneously we will see that it is helping our concentration. So this concentration, as it progresses, as the kleshas become attenuated, they reach a point where Bhashyakara calls, they become Shushka Kashtavat. They become like dry wood. Dry wood. Tanukrita kleshas, klesha tanukaranartha, Bhashyakara calls it like a Shushka Kashtavat. They will become like dry wood. But still they have not been burned. They are there. And then that concentration, when it becomes highest form of the highest form, that will generate knowledge, and that knowledge will burn these kleshas. That is the state of Jivan Mukti. Person in whom these kleshas have been burnt. Such a person is called Charamadeha, a person living in the last body, Kushalaha, an adept. Like that, these names are given for Jivan Muktas, because the kleshas have been burnt. And that is why both are necessary, one leading to the other. The tanukarana of the kleshas is necessary. The kleshas have to be attenuated. And simultaneously meditation is necessary, because that only will generate knowledge, which will burn the kleshas, which will be state of Jivan Mukti. So that is the, so to say, plan of action for us, how we have to proceed, how we have to progress. And that is why this Kriya Yoga becomes absolutely necessary. Unless the kleshas are attenuated, we cannot develop concentration. These are the first two sutras, and these are all linked sutras. So some of the topics which come in the next sutra have been discussed here. We see the next sutra names the kleshas. Now we have talked of kleshas. We have translated them as drives. We have talked of tanukarana and all that. The next sutra talks of the kleshas, avidya, asmita, ragadvesha, avinivesha, klesha. Avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha, avinivesha, klesha. 5 kleshas have been enlisted here. Kleshas are the word translated as usual, there are different translations. Afflictions is accepted by many, or some are acceptable. Afflictions. These are the 5 afflictions, so to say. Which are these? Avidya, that is ignorance. Asmita, that is asmiti bhavaha, that I am, the I-ness. I-ness, that is an affliction. Raga is attachment. Dvesha is hatred. And abhinivesha is clinging to life. We can translate it as fear of life or clinging to life. So these are the 5 afflictions. We are quite aware of raga and dvesha, attachment, attraction, and hatred. We are also aware of abhinivesha, clinging to life, fear of life, and all that. The first 2 are avidya and asmita. These are the 5 kleshas. These kleshas, now why are they called afflictions? Because they are causes for samsara. These kleshas, so to say, are the cause or causes for our continuation in this samsara, in this cycle of births and rebirths. These kleshas, they have this power, so to say, to create changes in the gunas and in our mind. You see something, you want it. A change has happened in the mind. These kleshas have created a change in the mind. So they have this power to initiate the action of the gunas, to create change, to set in motion a series of cause and effect. We work, we do good or bad work to get what we want. That generates results. To experience those results, we again have to take a birth. They initiate, so to say, a series of cause and actions, and finally they cause the fruition of the action, vipaka. So these kleshas, they are, so to say, the fuels which keeps this samsara chakra going on for us. We have been going through these cycles of birth and death, birth and rebirth. The reason, the power is in these kleshas. And of course, samsara is misery. It is an affliction, and hence these are called afflictions. Because these kleshas are the ones which cause this entire cycle of births and rebirths. By empowering gunas, by causing changes, by setting forth a series of causes and effects, and finally by giving fruition to the actions. And they work in tandem. They don't work in isolated ways, they work in tandem. Ignorance will strengthen, so to say, attraction or hatred. Hatred, when it is exercised, or attraction, or whichever the klesha, when we pursue it, when we fall for it, that in turn strengthens avidya. When we pursue something that we get attracted to, we are strengthening that particular klesha. We are also strengthening avidya. The more intense is the attraction, more intense will be krodha or dvesha when there is an obstruction. So they all help each other, so to say. They depend on each other, they feed on each other, they strengthen each other. It's a well-connected, so to say, mechanism to keep us hooked on, to keep us hooked up to this samsara. Avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha, abhinivesha. Well orchestrated, so to say. These 5, they work in tandem, helping each other, nourishing each other, strengthening each other, causing each other, and keeping us, so to say, in the game, in this game of births and rebirths. And hence they are called kleshas. This is the 3rd sutra. They have just been listed, and the Vashyakara explains how they keep us in this game. Of course, according to this philosophy of the yogis, they are also responsible for the whole of creation. That's a different matter. And then the next sutra tells us 2 things. How is avidya connected with all other kleshas. And what are the different stages in which they exist in our mind? These are the 2 points that will be discussed in the next sutra, which says, avidya kshetram uttaresham prasupta tanu vichinna udaranam. Avidya kshetram itaresham prasupta tanu vichinna udaranam. As I said, there are 2 points mentioned in this. One is avidya, that is ignorance, is the kshetra, the field, the source, the cause, so to say, of iteration or uttaresham, whatever is the reading, of the other 4, that is asmita, raga, dvesha, abhinivesha. Of these 4, avidya is the kshetra, that is the cause of these 4. That is the field of these 4. And these 4, each of these exists in our mind in 4 different stages, so to say, 4 different forms. Prasupta, Tanu, Vichinna and Udara. These are the 4 stages in which kleshas reside in the antahkarana, in the mind. The 4 stages in which kleshas reside in our mind. These drives, you can say, these afflictions, they are not in the same stage at all times. At different times they are in different stages. Those stages have been listed in this sutra as prasupta, tanu, vichinna and udara. Prasupta can be translated as dormant, vichinna is obstructed, tanu is attenuated, and udara is manifest. These are the 4 stages in which these afflictions reside or stay in our mind. Manifested, we all are aware. Manifested is when, so to say, we experience it. We experience within ourselves the hatred for someone or something, or the attraction for someone or something, or whichever. Manifested is udara. Udara is we experience it. Maybe we have fallen for it, or yet to fall for it, or maybe we will fight it, either way, but we are experiencing it. It has manifested itself in our heart. That is the udara. What is prasupta or vichinna and tanu? These are the 3 other states. Prasupta is where it is present, but in a seed form. It is there in a seed form. It has the potency, so to say. It has the potential to manifest. But it is not manifest. It is prasupta, dormant. Like seed is there in the ground. Unless some water and some manure is given, it will not sprout. In itself it is lying there, but it has the shakti, the potency to sprout. Like that, kleshas, certain kleshas are there in our heart, in that state. Okay, there are different examples given by different commentators to explain this prasupti. We'll see in our next class. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna.